Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 2 of 2D6 Friday, the wargaming show with the most delicious hair on YouTube. Bum 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 bum. That's right, hello folks. You may notice, as soon as any sound comes from my guest, that I'm not alone this evening.
Oh yeah, I forgot I wasn't visible until I talk. Like I did the whole lip sync in the beginning to make it look like Crabbington's talking when you talked, but that obviously didn't show.
Yes, I'm joined by the world's sweatiest puppet.
Yes, it's quite sweaty.
Yes,
We can actually have a live look inside Crabbington for the first time
Oh god.
ever. Here you go. I can do
Well,
this.
there's the thumbnail for this episode.
Yes, there's the insides of Crabbington. Nightmares.
That's
Forever.
quite disgusting. So, folks, welcome to the undisputed #1 general wargaming show that takes place on a Friday night with an orange backdrop. Now, a couple of people actually said that this backdrop looks a little bit too red, but I can assure you it's burnt orange, and as evidence, I've got my official orange mascot here, and you can see that his pants are red, and they do not match the backdrop, so it's burnt orange. However, I am thinking of getting a lighter one, just to be extra sure, because this actually looks a lot more orange in person than it does on camera. It's weird lighting in this room. It's very dark in this corner until I turn on this painting light, which melts my face. So that's being
that actually made the background a bit more orange, just turning on that light. But yeah.
Yes, I'm thinking an even brighter one. Maybe not neon, because I don't actually want to blind the audience. Not on episode 2 anyway. So, of course, Dreddy, you are an international wargaming expert and analyst. So, for anyone that may not be familiar with your work, which game systems do you have a lot of expertise in?
I played a lot of games in my time. I mainly played Warhammer 40k for 20 years and Warhammer Fantasy. I pretty much joined into 8th edition, played a bit of 7th edition. I played Small Time back in the day. I played a bit of Necromunda. I played what other specialist games? Blood Bowl. I played quite a bit of Blood Bowl. I played Dread Ball. Then also later Relics. I played, I think, 2 games of Deep Wars. I don't know if I should count those. Songs of Blades and Heroes is a thing. I played Flames of War. I'm playing Bolt Action. I bet I forgot something. Like this, just I played some games of Eden.
So whatever game is mentioned in a debate, you can offer an insightful, educated, well-informed opinion.
I don't know about that. I can offer an opinion, but I can't guarantee. I also play Kings of War, even though no one plays it here around here anymore. So,
well, I can see that the live audience is starting to fill up a bit. Anyone out there who wishes to get in any questions, feel free to do so in the live chat, and we will be addressing those since this is general wargaming discussion. Every possible system out there that's interesting. So basically everything but War Machine, as far as I'm concerned.
I also played War Machine and Horse. Played.
Well, I'm going to look who we've got in the audience at the moment. I've seen a few people commenting, the likes of Gubbins and Mickey Genver, Ronnie Dodd, TFF Baz, Boom13R hashtag, which is a really odd name. I'm sure more people are going to be piling in as the minutes go by.
Classic YouTube name.
So we've got a wide variety of topics yet again this week. First of all, word on the street. My shoeshine boy has let me know for twice his usual shoe shining fee, which I slip him once a week for him to give me all the latest news and gossip. And he tells me that Games Workshop are going to be pushing extra hard to get their IP licensed out there very, very soon. In their recent financials, apparently it showed that the IP licensing accounted for a very large proportion of their profits this year. So it seems like they've looked at that and thought, let's do more of it if it's working. So they're actually actively looking for new game developers, toy manufacturers, perhaps, which could be interesting. So let's start off. Let's look back over the years to our favourite Games Workshop IP licensed products.
I mean, they obviously did a lot with Fantasy Flight games. There's like Chaos in the Old World, the board game where everyone plays like a Chaos God, and then there's several card games, like Chaos Marauders, I think one is called. And then there is the role-playing games, Rogue Trader, Death Watch. There might be another one by now. I'm not sure. Inquisitor? No, Inquisitor wasn't. It's a specialist game. That's the one like right off my head that aren't video games.
Most of the ones that immediately spring to mind. Most of the ones that spring to mind for me were on the PC, going all the way back to the likes of Shadow of the Horned Rat and Dark Omen. Dark Omen still probably my number one until I really get into Warhammer Total War, which I just freed up some space on the PC to actually install. So I'll be getting to that very soon. But Dark Omen, still my favourite at the moment. There were some games that were, looking back, they were pretty terrible, but they were quite fun at the time, like Final Liberation. And then there were others. There was Chaos Gate. There was just
Chaos Gate was pretty good as far as I remember. I don't think I actually had it myself, but it looked quite nice.
There was an actual ton of 40k related games back in the day. And then moving on a bit, there was the original Space Hulk as well, which I still own, I think, on a disc with the original System Shock, and I could never get either of them to work.
Yeah, there was also a later version of Space Hulk that was released on the PlayStation. I actually have that. I played it on the PS1. Space Hulk on the PS1 was just so hard. I mean, the original game was also hard on Amiga and PC, but just playing with the control pad and then having those timed turns, it was so awkward. I don't know if I ever got really far in that game.
I've got Space Hulk on Steam, the more recent one, not the newest one. And there's another one, there's that Deathwing one that's coming out at some point, which is more like first-person shooter rather than a simulation of the tabletop, which is what the one I've got is.
Right, so yeah, that's what I have too. The one on Steam, yeah, the newer PC Space Hulk, which is alright. I was a bit bored though, because I would rather just play the board game, to be honest. Because it was just the board game. Then the upgraded version was a bit... They mixed some things up, had like random elements in there, but I didn't buy it because apparently it was super glitchy when it came out. And I didn't bother anymore, so...
Some things were okay, but for a game where you're playing against artificial intelligence, where they can't really come up with too complex a strategy, then it was quite easy to win if you just used Overwatch all the time.
Yeah, it's true. Also, Space Crusade was on Amiga, PC, and I don't know if it was on C64, but there was a Space Crusade game also, which came out, I think, a bit later than the actual Hero Quest game that was on like all the old PCs computers, which I also played on my C64. It was fun.
Over the years, 40k has had tons of love, though, hasn't it? It's had the Fire Warrior game, Space Marine was really big, the whole Dawn of War series, obviously. Warhammer Fantasy was a little bit more neglected for a while. And then in very recent times, we've had Vermintide and Warhammer Total War. So fantasy getting a bit of love there. There hasn't been any time for Age of Sigmar related games yet, but you can guarantee that there will be one. I could imagine a Space Marine-like game where you're playing as a Stormcast Eternal would be quite fun.
Yeah, I can see that. Dawn of War games were great. I have every single Dawn of War game and played every single one, except the very new one, which I don't think is out yet. So.
Yeah, Dawn of War 3 isn't out yet. I played all of them until they get to the inevitable expansion where they kind of ditch all the story and it's all just about taking over the planet, and then I lose a bit of interest then. Because I really like the story in the Dawn of War games. So I'd rather just play that.
I never cared about the story, to be honest. I enjoyed Dawn of War Dark Crusade the most, just because you had this big campaign map and it was all about just expanding your empire, and you could build bases and they would still be there when you would come back to that map. It would just still your base there. And
that's what I didn't like though, and it was kind of really easy to manipulate, because at the end of a mission, when you're fighting against the enemy, you wait until they've got one guy left or one building and don't destroy it, and just build defense turrets all covering the entire map. So that next time you play on it, wherever their base teleports in, it'll erase some of your defense turrets because they need somewhere to put their base. And then the rest of the map will just be your turrets non-stop. So then you destroy them easily, leave one building, rebuild all your turrets again.
Yeah, but there was also a way to instant win with Necrons in Dark Crusade. I think it was with flayed ones. You could, like, I don't know how exactly it went, but you could make flayed ones, teleport them to the enemy base instantly and just kill everything, and you had won in like 1 minute or something. It was hilarious.
Looking at the audience, TFF Baz says Warhammer Quest on Steam. Yeah, the Warhammer Quest is kind of an app game, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's more designed for tablets and mobiles, as far as I can tell, so I've never tried that. I don't really play any games on my mobile. Oh, we've got a comment here from Samuel Barker, wants to know, Andy, have you conditioned your hair? Well, I do not use any conditioner product on my hair. It's just naturally luxurious and beautiful.
It makes you look a bit like Ace Ventura when you put your hair up in the front like that.
Like this.
Yeah, there we go, Ace Ventura.
Yeah, I could just keep it up there, couldn't I? But no.
Yeah.
I think the kind of flop of it, the swish of it, that's what people want to see. That's what people pay their money for. So, where were we? Okay, so those are all the... I think we've pretty much covered all the games.
Yeah, most of them.
So going forward, there are a lot of things they haven't made games based on. Obviously, there was the Blood Bowl game on Steam as well, which I've played, which is quite fun. But
I've played that too quite a bit, actually.
There are a few other than Age of Sigmar that they haven't really touched yet, which they should have done, really. There's never been a Gorka Morka inspired game yet.
That would be... It should be a racing game, an orc racing game. That would be amazing, where you can have weapons on your vehicles and ram each other.
Yeah, there's a few games out there like that now, the kind of Mad Max type games. So you would think it would be the perfect time. Technology would allow you to create an incredible Gorka Morka based game, I think.
Yes.
I don't know how you would do it, whether you would have it as a strictly multiplayer, like arena based, like here are your trucks in this area, just ram into each other. Or you could make it more of a... I don't know about story based with orcs. It would kind of be more comedy than anything else, I think.
Yeah, it could be like some, I don't know, a bit of like role play elements where you gather scrap and like upgrade your stuff, but I don't know.
Yeah, you could make a cooperative game out of it, kind of like Borderlands, I think.
I guess, yeah. In the chat, adorable. What about Warhammer Age of Reckoning? I don't think we are talking about that game anymore. I think it was really bad. I'm not. Was it that there was one Warhammer game on PC that was no fun at all? It might have been that.
Age of Reckoning. That might be the one that I played that was bad.
Yeah, I actually I think I have the DVD here.
Oh no, the one I played was Mark of Chaos, and that was bad.
Oh yeah. It's Mark of Chaos. Here we go.
Yeah, that was it.
Right. What was Age of Reckoning? I don't remember it at all right now.
I don't either. He also says Warhammer 40k Eternal Crusade.
I couldn't afford that. I don't actually think it would run on my PC. Was it the MMO? I'm pretty sure that was the MMO, was it?
Yes, he says it was the MMO.
Yeah. Yeah, it was shut down. Yeah, there we go.
There's a Mordheim game as well, isn't there? But it's not. It's more of a turn-based strategy, kind of chess-like, isn't it?
I think I haven't really looked into it because I didn't really hear a lot of people saying good things about it. So it also took forever to be out of early access. I think if it's not still in it, I'm not sure. So, and I don't buy early access games anymore. I'm done with early access.
Mickey Genver apparently doesn't even know what computers are. So, other than Gorkamorka, what else haven't they touched?
Space Fleet Gothic.
Oh yeah, there is a Battlefleet Gothic game coming, isn't there?
Yeah, it's. I think you can already play it actually, and it looks really, really cool. I really want to play it, but I'm not sure my PC can handle it, so I won't spend money on it until I have a PC upgrade. That's the thing.
It does look fun. I haven't looked into whether it's more of a simulation of the tabletop version or whether it's something totally different.
It looks quite fluent. Like I don't think it's turn-based. I think it's all real time, and you like make decisions and give orders and such. I've watched like 1 or 2 Let's Plays.
Yeah, I'm not. I saw a few articles about it a while ago, but I haven't actually seen anything about it recently.
Yeah, I normally don't continue following games when I know that I can't play them on my PC. I'm just like, okay, I won't torture myself.
It's kind of hard to know what is actually out because there's so much early access stuff out there, and some games just stay in early access for years. So it's hard to tell when something's actually been fully released or not, especially survival horror games on Steam.
Yeah, DayZ.
Open world survival horror, notorious for being early access forever.
Yeah, Rust. Oh god. Anyway, are there more? I bet there's other PC games or console games that we have missed, but
have they done any 30k based games yet?
That's a good question. It's an app game, so it's called a Drop Assault, I think. And I played it on my cell phone for exactly the time it took to install it and click through the screens, and then I deinstalled it. So I think there's at least one.
Oh dear. So there's
the Snottling Flinger game that Rem played.
Oh yeah, there is that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure whether we
highlight, I think.
I say I'm not sure whether we should count app games, but I'm sure the huge amount of them that sell, or even the free ones, people download content for them all around the world. So that's probably a huge money spinner, potentially, for GW.
Probably with all the microtransactions there.
If they made like a My Pet Nurgling app, where you have to feed the Nurgling and squeeze its pustules on an app, that would do really well, I think.
Yeah, I think so. Pustule Popper.
Moving away from PC and console and app games, though, into the more physical media, they're also trying to license out their IP for toy manufacturers.
That would be amazing.
So you could end up seeing things like Lego Space Marines.
Yeah, and they would cost just as much as like GW, like model Space Marines, gaming Space Marines. But what I would love to see is people might remember the Boglins from the 90s. I would want to see Nurgling Boglins. That would be amazing. Just have Nurglings or like just Nurgle demons and have them as like rubber hand puppets. And you could like that toy slime and have it like shoot out of their different orifices and stuff. That would be the best thing ever. I would buy that.
That would be amazing. If it was the 90s when slime came out of every toy.
Yeah, there had to be slime everywhere. Like so many ruined carpets and wallpapers and ceilings. Some
of the slime was accidental. If you remember the toy Stretch Armstrong. Did they have that in Germany? He had really stretchy arms.
I saw the commercial for it, but I don't think we had it in Germany. I used to watch a lot of like vintage toy commercials for a while.
But eventually, like the rubber would split on his arm, and all the ooze would start seeping out after you stretched it too far.
Oh God!
It was horrible. Or Adorable wants a squig to cuddle with.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, plushies. There you go.
Toy squigs. Another big thing around at the moment are those kind of collectible, like film characters with big heads. What are they called?
Yeah,
again?
the bobblehead.
Yeah,
I think they're just called bobblehead.
You could have bobblehead Space Marines if they don't already exist.
Also, like, if anyone remembers the Monster in My Pocket or the Mini Boglins, which were pretty much, or Muscle Man, which were just like small rubber figures that you would get randomly like in little blind bags, and having that for 40k with like characters or just chaos demons or whatever, that would be amazing.
I had so many mini Boglins. Millions.
Yeah, me too. I had all the monster in my pocket from Generation 1, including the volcano where you could put them in and hang it on your wall and impress your friends.
I had billions of those too. And I can't remember what the monsters were called, where they were in a bag that like dissolved.
I think they were called trash. It was something with trash. I had quite a few of those. They were like the good ones and the bad ones. The bad ones wanted to like pollute the earth, and the good ones were like there to stop them. And the story was that they were like dropped like on earth, and they would land in the water, and then the bags dissolved, and they would be reanimated. And it was really stupid, but also really cool.
I think there were a few different toys that kind of had dissolvable bags, because that's what would happen around. In the 90s, there'd be one successful toy line, and then everyone would rip them off. Like you had your Transformers, and then you had your like GoBots that would come after that.
Right.
So
Mr. Paulingson is in the chat. Hi. Ruhak.
With a very constructive comment there.
About Garbage Pail Kids.
Trolls with the bright hair, witch elf versions, perhaps.
Yeah, those. Oh, I had so many of those stupid trolls.
Yeah, there is a huge market because GW have never really done the kind of cutesy collectible toys, have they?
Yeah, but trolls were not always cute because there were the battle trolls. And the battle trolls, they were like monsters and they had weapons and they would kill each other. But they were trolls with the hair. It was amazing.
I think I had 3 of the trolls with the crazy hair. 1 big one and 2 kind of medium-sized ones.
Oh, they were everywhere. Keychains, you could put them on the end of your pencil for some reason, and it was, oh god.
Actually, my main memory of trolls is probably a Simpsons episode. I think they're in church and Bart is just playing with the troll, and then Marge says she doesn't want him playing with something that has such bizarre hair.
Yeah, it's a classic. Oh god. Yeah, GW could do a lot with toy lines. There's like endless possibilities. Like from collectible toys to whatever, action sets.
Demonettes.
Yeah. Inflatable demonettes even. So those would be more interesting.
I'm not sure they want to go into that.
Yeah, maybe not.
I don't think they're going to want to do the inflatable demonette. I think that is something that would definitely be abused. There is a whole other area of IP licensing that they could go into in that domain that we probably shouldn't talk about too much.
Like the Holy Fist of the Emperor.
He does have a lot of chapters that are named after fists, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well.
On that note, well, let's see how many people we've got in the audience now. It keeps swelling as time goes on. With this being only an early episode in the series, a lot of people don't know that it's taking place until it's already underway. So the viewers steadily rise throughout the show. Whereas when a show's been on for a while, you usually have everyone kind of lining up outside waiting for it to start. So the numbers steadily going up as we go along. Shall we move on to another topic? Because we've got a couple of juicy ones. So something that I spotted on the Facebook, which is quite exciting. So I'll just fire up the screen share here. So, Empire of Dust miniatures for Kings of War. These were painted by a professional painting studio, which probably explains why they look better than the usual Mantic painted miniatures. But look at these.
Right, I'm just waiting for the actual picture to appear on my screen. Right now I can only see your logo, which is a Hangout bug, which is like Hangout internal. I think the audience can actually see the pictures. I can't. But I have seen them shortly before the show started. So those look quite good, actually.
Yeah,
I'm quite interested.
One thing I can immediately see is that the skeletons have the legs of the existing skeletons, and they kind of have extra parts on them, like different heads and different shields.
Yeah, Mantic likes to do that. Same with the Abyssal Dwarves.
It's a good idea. It saves them having to create new legs, especially since they're only skeletons and they would look virtually the same anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
The mummies, I think those are are they the existing mummies, maybe? I think they probably are.
There were mummies out that I know of, so they might. I can't see them, so my memory is...
And there are the kind of big guys that look like the Egyptian gods,
Yeah,
like troll
Yeah.
or ogre-sized.
yeah, which like in Warhammer would be the Ushabti equivalent, like
Yeah,
the
but
big undead unit.
they're just not quite as big as those. And there are various characters as well, with banners, and they all look very good. It might just be the amazing paintwork on them. And there are some with really
I can
gigantic
finally see them.
weaponry.
I can finally see them. Yeah, they look quite good. It makes me interested in maybe getting a few, and maybe having a little undead force again for a different game system, though, because no one plays Kings of War anymore. At least not here. In the UK, it's still really big, but over here,
Booming in the UK, but apparently not so much in Germany.
no. At least not in my circle of friends. So.
Catapults, which are almost the same as the regular undead catapult.
They have like scarabs on the front.
Yep, scarabized everything up.
Pretty much.
You can see here that
big
they've got the
shield.
usual skeleton legs, just gigantic scaraby shields.
Yeah, I like that.
Archers that just look like the regular skeleton archers, I think, but with Egyptian heads.
Yeah, and they have like that thing around their neck that is more Egyptian-like.
Yes, they do.
Yes, whatever it's called.
So I imagine if they don't have different torsos, that would be a part that you just sit on top. But they might just give you different torsos with them.
I think it's different torsos.
And these guys just look cool, don't they?
They look quite neat.
The proportions look more realistic than the Mantic trolls. I'll give them that.
Yeah, with the tiny legs, the trolls there. It's a bit more realistic here, indeed.
Pretty damn cool. So I've played against Empire of Dust a few times, obviously before these models were released, and they do play a little bit differently to the regular undead. I think they have more regeneration, which obviously is annoying for some people, and they did just kind of hit the Pharaoh with the tournament nerf hammer to bring him back into line because he was a bit too excessive. Did you play against them at all in Kings of War yet?
I played against regular undead, but yeah, that's pretty much it.
Ronnie Dodd says these guys may get him starting Kings of War.
Yeah.
All the new armies Mantic are coming out with look really nice. The Abyssals, the crazy horn demon guys, they look really good.
Yeah, they do. For my personal taste, they're a bit too cliche. Oh, we're the demons from hell with pitchforks and like the tails, and it's like
I think that's a
they're
good
all
way
red.
to differentiate themselves from GW's demons, though.
Yeah, I think so. I had more wished for something more unique, but yeah, I don't know.
And I think this is a particularly good timing since GW kind of drops the hammer on the Tomb Kings. So their models are completely gone. You can still get rules for them in Age of Sigmar, but they no longer exist in the actual web store. So good timing from Mantic there, I would say, to actually release models. And I imagine they're going to be doing the same with the other Warhammer armies that they kind of adopted, like fantasy rat men and that kind of thing in the future.
Yeah, I guess. Bretonians, maybe. If they don't already have an equivalent for Bretonians in Kings of War.
It's your Kings of War army. You've set it up now so you can play it in Age of Sigmar and Kings of War, didn't you?
Yes. I've pretty much left all the original Mantic models on the big unit bases, and I've popped all the GW models off the unit bases, put them on single bases, but kept the unit base so I can just like put them on the big bases if I need them. Which works. So they're not locked into one system by their basing.
You had a few people to play Kings of War with last year, didn't you? Have they moved on to other things now?
Yeah. A lot of people just wanted to try it, want to have a few games, but most of them didn't stay with it because it wasn't It wasn't complex enough for them. I think that was like the main reason. There's people who actually enjoy the complexity of, let's say, Warhammer 8th edition with all the like math you have to do and all the crazy things. So yeah, and there wasn't as much customization in there. So I had a lot of complaints about that. But there was a time when I played a lot of Kings of War with different people. It was fun. Good times.
It's definitely one of the easier games that I can find opponents for around here. There's quite a lot, and the tournament scene's doing well.
Yeah, also because the games you don't have to plan too much time for a game. It's almost a pickup game. You can say, oh, let's play like Kings of War, and you are done in like 1 hour if you really just play, or even less.
You certainly can be. I've played a couple of games with a chess clock, and that speeds things up a bit, although you do end up making a lot of mistakes, especially deployments when there's a clock running. You think, oh god, my actual gameplay time's ticking away here. So you end up like not quite leaving enough space to fit your units next to each other because you're not being super careful.
Yeah, I remember on our yearly Apocalypse games for 40k, some of the times we actually had a time limit for deployment, and people would just like grab all their models, just throw them on the table, and it sped things up a lot. Because people wouldn't start overthinking things, they would just get their stuff on the table. That worked.
Speaking about overthinking and time wasting, moving on to a slightly different topic here, one of the changes that I saw for the next edition of Bolt Action is that they're bringing in templates. Instead of just having like D6 or D3 hits on a unit.
That could be good.
Could be good, but some people have shown concern and worry that perhaps it'll lead to people spending an hour splitting up all their troops as far apart as they possibly can, like down to the millimeter.
That might happen, but it might make for a fairer game, because flamethrowers especially were very overpowered, I feel, in Bolt Action. You could just wipe out units. It was nuts. Really nuts. The last game I played was against Bountain Mike, a gaming buddy. He played Japanese, and I played, what was it, American something specialists, and there were like flamethrowers in every unit. And I felt really dirty afterwards because I didn't expect that they would just roll over the Japanese like that. It was sad.
The Japanese have special abilities when they're in close combat, don't they?
Yeah, they had to get close to all the flames.
Run into just a wall of flame. Doesn't sound like a particularly good idea.
No. Next time when we play, I won't play that army list, because I just want to try it out. I never used flamethrowers ever in Bolt Action, and that was the first time.
I'm not sure how I feel about the template thing, because I've had quite good luck with artillery in Bolt Action for my Belgians. I seem to be quite good at rolling sixes and just wiping out complete squads.
Yeah, me too, for some weird reason. There's just a 6, and then everything explodes.
So I don't know whether, if they have templates, it's just if you hit, it lands there. If you miss, it disappears. Or if it's going to be, if you miss, it scatters. I'm not sure about that yet. I haven't seen that much detail. It's probably something they're still weighing up in their minds. But templates
I guess
are coming in.
Yeah, that will be interesting. I actually haven't bought the Bolt Action rulebook because I heard about a new edition coming out, so I'm waiting. I only have the Google Books version of it.
Also, there are some people in Bolt Action community who don't base their miniatures on standard size bases. Just because the rules the way they were, it didn't really matter how big your base was.
You just put every single guy on a CD and you're good.
Yeah, you might get obliterated by certain weaponry. It might be very difficult to hide. But templates are probably going to be able to hit 4 of you guys if everyone's on a CD.
Yeah.
Good old templates. So, speaking of Bolt Action again, you recently made a purchase, didn't you, from Bad Squiddo Games.
I did indeed.
And I'm going to screen share their page here now for the Lady Russians.
Lady Russian.
Did you buy a pack of everything?
I actually bought one of the bundle deals. They should be under. If you scroll down, are they there? Yeah, I think I bought the squad bundle. I pretty much got one complete squad with everything. So it's pretty much one of everything. It's what I bought. And
Right.
they're nice miniatures. I have some here actually, somewhere. Yeah.
So you got these ladies here.
Yes.
And this one.
Yeah, I have those right here in my hands. Indeed.
And these here.
Yes, I think, yeah, those still have to arrive because there was such a crazy, like, a billion people wanted those models. So the HMG actually had to, like, it's there. I just have to get it shipped because it's just, I don't know, there's so many people who wanted those that no one could account for it before casting or something.
Yeah, there was a definite gap in the market, wasn't there? Because a lot of people didn't realise whether certain nations used women in the armies. People know about how in Germany, right towards the end of the war, they drafted in children to defend when they're really low on resources and troops at the end there.
Yeah, there's actually the bold action last levy box, which is like the last defenders of Berlin, and there's like children in there and old people, and it's pretty weird.
But not a lot of people seem to be aware that the Russians were one of the few armies to actually include women as a major part of their army.
Yes,
there was
all different kinds.
It was seen as like a thing that you just shouldn't do back in the day for a lot of armies. It was seen as, no, you can't send women into war, but the Russians were quite happy to do it.
Yeah, it's like duty for your country, etc. So yeah, they were also active in quite different activities in the war. They had like planes which were really low tech, and it's always suicide flying them, but they dropped like bombs on tanks with them and stuff like that. I think they were called the Night Witches or something. I don't remember right now. There was something like that. Pretty neat.
We've got these tank commanders here as well. So if people actually want to get tanks with their army, there's an example there. You don't have to actually buy a specific female tank. You can just buy a tank from any range and then stick these tank commanders and tank riders on it. So you can get a pretty decent army here. The things that should be coming in the future, I imagine, will be crews for artillery and so on.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure mortars, stuff like that.
Yeah, even if they don't have actual mortars, at least I would expect to see crew that you could put with them.
Yeah, I mean, the mortar is like a tiny bit. So it has to be cast extra.
I imagine you'd probably get a small mortar, but some of the bigger stuff, even if they don't do full packs with the weapon and the crew, they would at least do the crew, so you could put it with weapons from other ranges.
Right. The bundle deals are actually quite good. Quite nice deals there.
Ultimate
for quickly
bundle.
Building an army.
Let's look at that.
I actually I clicked together an army list for Russians for, I think it was around 400 points, and it was quite easy to just click it together really quick without spending too much money. It was a nice bold action starter army just to get into it.
Yeah, you get quite a lot of stuff there, don't you, for £80. 3 times infantry, so that's a pack of 6, that's 18 infantry with rifles. 3 LMG teams.
Yes.
3 SMG.
That's pretty much 3 squads.
Yeah.
I would say, yeah.
Sniper team. 2 different sniper teams in different poses. Tank commanders pack, tank riders pack, and command pack.
Yeah, that's quite neat.
That's a pretty decent army there.
It's a good starter army.
Yeah, to either combine with any Russians that you've already got or to start a new one.
Indeed.
For those of us that like to play the slightly more niche armies for bolt action, I say as a Belgian player, it's definitely very interesting to have more unique armies out there.
Yeah, it's true.
About time that someone explored this gap in the market, and
Yeah.
that gap has now been filled quite suitably, I think.
I actually I'm also interested in the Korean War, which a lot of people are not. Like, the Korean War is also known as the Forgotten War because no one talks about it. People talk about Vietnam, World War II, and etc. But the Korean War is just very unpopular. And one of my plans was actually to take these Russian models and make them into a North Korean army, because as far as I could find out, the uniform was quite similar. They got a lot of stuff from the Russians in those days. And of course, I have an American army, so I can just instantly pitch them against each other.
How much bolt action do you actually get to play at the moment?
I would say like 2 games a year, which is all right. Like, they're always so much fun just because I enjoy the system so much that it makes up for not being able to play it as much.
I think that's where I'm kind of at with bolt action right now. I think I could play games more regularly, but there are some people where I would have to actually travel, which is something I'm usually not willing to do, especially with my all-metal Belgian army.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. So I don't know. It's just I have the army in my shelf, and it's always ready to go. It's pretty much finished. My Americans, there's not much I could add. So
more people are getting into it when the new edition of bolt action comes out. I know that Mr. Pezapoo is getting back into bolt action. I've played against him a couple of times, so I'm sure he'll come around for a game at some point when he gets his new army up to speed to get crushed by the Belgian chocolate menace again. The fate that awaits anyone that wants to challenge them in battle.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Mountain Mike to paint his Japanese, actually, so I could do battle reports.
Now, we've got another topic to cover here. I discussed a little bit last week that Relics has the beta version 2 rules out. So I cast my eye over them this week, and I know you had a bit of a look as well, because obviously, as the two of the competitors in the International Relics Hangout Championship, one of us, of course, being the winner of the first ever Relics International Hangout Championship, one of us being the runner-up, I think we're pretty well placed to offer some insight on this game, aren't we? As the
Highly
two international
qualified
experts. So, I've been looking over some of the changes and some of the not changes. So let's talk about a few of those. I've got them in front of me here. I don't need to screen share though, because I can talk like a human. So, pre-measuring, there is actually a poll going on right now on the Relics Facebook page about whether pre-measuring should be allowed in version 2 or not.
I personally think that pre-measuring in games should always be allowed. Just because of the one reason that there are people out there that have like sight impairments. Like they might have like really bad vision on one eye, so they have like a 3D what's it called? Like
Depth
how
perception.
the depth perception is impaired. And that's a thing. And I know a lot of people say it's a skill you acquire to see how far something is on the table. And that's true. It's certainly a skill. But I personally am always on the boat to include as many people as possible. So I will always vote for pre-measuring in every game.
I would say estimating a distance isn't so much a skill as remembering that little tuft of grass there to that rock there that I fired from is exactly 19 inches.
Yes.
The ability to remember that you might consider a skill, but actual depth perception and estimating how far away something is, I don't think that's really a skill at all. It's something you either have or you don't. And you don't punish people in war games for having bad hearing, let's say. You don't make someone close their eyes and stand round the table and say, I'm going to shoot you from here. And if they don't point directly at you with their eyes closed, that means they get -1 to their defense.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I can say that I have learned to measure distances with my eyes in like the 20 years that I played, but it's nothing that I would feel should be an advantage at all. Also because you can just cheat as you said. Like you can also triangulate with like command range, and you can just be, oh, I know my forearm is like so and so long, and then you just lean over and you're like, huh, with your arm on the table, let's look at that. And
yeah, and you can measure from a unit behind first and say, okay, this guy with one tiny pistol is going to try and shoot you, even though he's only got a 2-inch range and you're clearly half the table away. Here we go, let's see how far it is. Oh no, I couldn't quite make it, but the tape measure is run perfectly over the unit in front, so you can see how far that unit is. And then you next activation, okay, I'll just move this unit an inch forward to get them into range, and oh, what do you know, they're just in range to shoot now.
Yeah, it's kind of a part of tabletop gaming, like being able to measure distances with your eyes only pretty much, but I don't think it should be a necessity, a skill that everyone should be able to have. Yeah, it makes life easier sometimes. You can just say, oh, I will move my guys, you move them, and that's perfectly 6 inches, and you don't have to measure. And
yeah, more people seem to be on the side of allow pre-measuring, is how it looked. Boom13R hashtag, good old Warhammer canon estimation.
Oh, yes, yeah, I remember.
That was always classic. And then that was, of course, replaced with 10 from the back.
That also existed in 40k with like, oh, what was it, like Elder Lance weapons? There was some lance where you had to estimate how long the shot is or something. Also with the old squig catapult in 40k. I think you also had to do it.
Mostly moving towards pre-measuring, I think, as time goes on.
Yeah, it would just make sense.
It does.
I think
it just includes more people in the game, rather than just leaving all the people with one eye. That's a huge disadvantage. Yeah. And it's totally different from saying, well, if someone isn't very clever and they don't have any tactical knowledge, let's just put something in the game to help them. Because obviously you want to win on your tactics. It's about your mental ability, not your physical ability. Yes. If you've got really short arms and can't reach to the other side of the table, then you should still be able to walk around there and move your troops.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's about the rule set and the in-game mechanics and not the real-world mechanics, I would say.
Yeah. You want to be able to play a game. If you've got really bad knees or a bad back and you can't crouch down to look for true line of sight, for instance, let's say you're Professor Stephen Hawking, you should still be able to play war games.
Yes.
And there are games where they keep it very, very simple. So they do away with true line of sight. So you can pre-measure everything, like Kings of War, for instance. So if you've got some physical limitation, you can still play. And I like it. So
yeah, me too.
I want to see pre-measuring in Relics. It's currently being decided by the public vote. Let's see some of the other things that have changed. I'm just scrolling down here. So most of the stats have stayed pretty much the same, although certain changes have been made to the way you attack. So now you can't go above 6 dice on an attack. But if you get to above 6, then for every extra dice you have, that's just 1 automatic hit.
I see.
And if you think about it, because you're looking for doubles, if you had more than 6 dice, you would automatically get a hit anyway, wouldn't you? Because there's only 6 possible outcomes.
True. So there has to be an automatic hit, yeah.
Rolling a triple, I think, is 2 hits now.
Oh, yeah.
Which is interesting.
Kind of makes sense.
Oh, a comment a comment from Mr. Chris Nichols there. Andy, your background looks red. Weird. Yes, the lighting in this corner of the room makes it look much more red than orange, which is why I've ordered a much lighter one. But, as I'm going to again prove to the audience, as you can see by this guy and his red pants and orange body, it's actually kind of a burnt orange background. Undisputable evidence there. Mickey Jenber. Yes, Andy says it's orange, but it is red. Yes, it does look a little bit reddish on the camera, doesn't it? Which is why it's being immediately replaced. So, back on the old Relics. A couple of the abilities have changed as well. What were we going to say?
The average roll in Relics is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 anyway. So getting triples is really rare.
Yeah, I did tend to roll. If it was 4 dice attacks, I would always roll 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's a classic.
one of the big changes is that they have advantages now, which you can pay points for, and it allows you to do a certain thing during the game. If you've got points left over at the end, there is a list of the advantages somewhere, which I'm going to try and find now. Let's see. Now I could just, here we go, being clever and just using the good old Control F to find advantages. Dun, 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 dun. Here we go, advantage pool. So examples of some of the advantages: redeploy without suffering -1 modifier to defense rolls, automatically pass a morale check, +1 attack, +1 to melee dice rolls, + or -1 to defense rolls, pre-measure for active unit, and +1 power die to casting roll. So these are just little extra things you can pay extra points for.
Yeah, that's all right. Like, just a little bonus you can buy for yourself.
Indeed. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about them. It does add another layer of complexity to the game.
Yeah, you have to actually remember to use them.
Yeah, and the Relics already has quite a lot going on, because there's a lot of tokens you have all over the place.
Yeah, and you always have to like keep an eye on what's going on. Like, you can barely just like let your mental guard down for a while, and just like, you always have to be on top of your game and see which unit is where and how far it could go and who's a threat right now, etc. It's a really busy game already.
Another major change, as far as I'm concerned, previously you would just roll 1 attack with all your dice, whereas now units actually have more than 1 attack, but they'll have less dice in each one. So a really big creature might have 2 attacks with 4 dice each, instead of 1 attack with 6 or 7 dice, which is really interesting.
That is a nice splitting that off like that. Yeah, I mean, it's in the end it's more dice rolls. I don't know if it affects the outcome too much, because in the end you just roll a certain number of dice. There might be a mechanic under that it makes sense to like cause damage with the first attack, and then the second attack is useful in some way, but yeah.
A couple of changes as well. There have been changes made to defense and armor saves and such. I think if you have defense now, hold on, there's definitely something about that. It's obscured, actually. Obscured, previously it used to take away a dice, didn't it? But I think obscured just adds to your armor save now.
Okay, which makes sense.
I think that is right. There's quite a few changes.
I like that better, to be honest. Just adding stuff on the armor save makes that a bit simpler. You can just say, oh, I'm in cover, here you go.
I'm just going to search for the word obscured here to make sure I've got that correct. Let's see.
Not to misinform the public.
Yes, yeah, their defense roll is improved by being obscured. So yeah, it's just their armor save gets better, pretty much.
I see. Well, that's okay. I like that.
Now, the one thing, I'm going to go into lingering effects in a minute, but the one thing that hasn't really changed a great deal, that I wanted to see changed quite a bit, is the morale system. Now, obviously, it's still in beta. They haven't finalized any of this. And if enough people shout up and say, listen here, Mr. Gavin of Tor Gaming, the morale was the one thing that I felt was holding Relics back, and you haven't changed it. Do something about that, punk. Then maybe he will. Because it's still very, very, very complex. There are still multiple things that affect your dice roll by bizarre
I think it got even
numbers.
More complex than it was.
It kind of did. The actual morale test itself didn't get more complicated. There are still the same amount of conditions that can affect it. For example, if your commander's removed from the game, -4. Checking units, if it's in command, +4. If it's shaken, -4. If it per horror lingering effect, -1. If it's in melee, -2. Caused by area of effect damage, -2.
Yeah.
And this is all when you're rolling 2d6. Add the unit's morale stat and then any additional modifiers, and you have to roll 13 or less.
My problem with those numbers normally is that those are numbers that you have to look up, and they don't logically are dictated by the system. Let's say, oh, just really simple, like you lose 3 guys, it's -3 to your morale. It's really clear. You don't have to look it up. The game mechanic tells you the modificator pretty much. And you actually have to learn these modificators. So
Yeah,
I think that's a big factor.
There are ways that the morale check is caused as well, which seems to be more common than in the previous version. For example, if you're not in command, every time you take any damage at all, then you have to take a morale test.
Yeah, that's harsh.
It is. It means you probably have to stay in command all the time. But then there are also all those pluses and minuses for whether you're in command or not on the checking morale, which I think is kind of a double whammy when that's not really necessary, because it's forcing you to take a test for being out of command, but then it's also putting a negative modifier on you for not being in command. And I think it's a bit too much. I think if there was one part of the game that needed streamlining, it was definitely morale.
Yeah, it was always the morale that threw me off. The rest of the system, I could always wrap my head around, just get into it, but morale was always a big mess for me. I always had to look everything up every time, even though I played quite a bit.
Yeah, I've played plenty of tournaments, but about 50% of players that I've played against didn't want to use the morale rules in the game, or they used a heavily simplified version of them, which you don't really want. You really want to have a game system that people can use all of it and be happy with. Unfortunate. Another thing I would say about Relics is it was built on this, it's all about the doubles, but there are a lot of dice mechanics in there that don't use doubles at all. For example, armor saves and morale tests. I would say to really push that unique dice mechanic, it should be incorporated into more parts of the game rather than just attacking. I think if they made the morale tests having to roll doubles, you just have a certain number of dice for your morale roll, and you have to get a double to pass it. And then, let's say, if your commander's dead, you take a dice away. If you're within command range, you add a dice. Yeah, instead of having all this complex maths to do, I think that would simplify it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It would also push the whole rolling doubles gimmick a bit more. It makes the system a bit more about rolling the doubles.
Yeah, if the dice mechanics in a game, I feel, should be consistent. So anytime you want to make a dice roll in Relics, you would think, okay, what am I doing? I'm trying to get doubles. Yes. Rather than, okay, now it's morale, now I have to roll 2d6, I have to reach this score with all these modifiers. The simpler you can keep it, the better, I think. And that's one thing I definitely would have looked at changing. It seems like the version 2, most of the changes are to things that I wouldn't have changed. But obviously it's still not finalized, and I can, like anyone else, I can give feedback on this, which I'm sure I will do now that I've looked through it properly. And I'll look into it a bit more, because it's possible some of the changes that I haven't picked up on yet affect other things that mean that they actually make more sense than they do to me at the moment.
Right.
And casting spells is another one as well. I'm not sure why that isn't using the doubles mechanic.
Yeah, it's true. It's always like 5+, except for the tier on a 4+. Would be more fun on doubles, certainly.
Yeah, I don't know why though. Maybe he's got a perfectly good reason. Maybe I'll have to ask him. But there are some other changes as well that we can look at quickly. There is the lingering effects. So some of these have changed quite a bit. The fire lingering effect is pretty much the same. You just get a hit on you before you activate, which is now known as the pre-actions phase, which is just cleaning things up a little bit. He's added in names for the different phases of your activation,
right,
to make things a bit easier. Freeze, units attacking this unit add +1 attack dice. So I think that's different. Horror, -1 to morale rolls, so that's the same. Knockdown is very different. The unit must apply a -1 modifier to its defense rolls for each knockdown counter. So you don't actually get knocked down anymore.
Right, just your defense goes down.
Yes. However, Pain, the unit cannot move or make gang-up attacks. So Pain has stolen, pretty much, the knockdown effect.
That's true. The unit cannot move. Yeah, that's harsh. Just for pain. Holy crap.
Yes, if you're in pain, you can't move or make gang-up attacks.
That makes Nuem quite mean. You can paralyze the enemy army, especially if you catch someone who would normally be more mobile.
It would. That if Pain is as easy to dish out as it was before, then that would be leaning towards overpowered, I would say. But maybe there's been some changes to that as well.
Yeah, that would make the Tormentor even more overpowered.
Also,
it was already.
Removing lingering effects is different as well. Because previously it was if you roll a 1, it stays on. Now, if you roll a 1 or a 2, it stays on.
I see. That's harsh.
Very interesting. Fire still doesn't apply to... it does more damage to puppets or dolls, and Pain still only applies to living models. So you're not going to be able to be using Pain or not to stop all the Britannans moving.
Except the puppeteer.
Yes, the puppeteer is definitely alive. Unless any other living Britannans have come out while I haven't been paying too much attention.
I haven't seen any.
Yeah, the other thing that makes morale tests annoying for me is shaken. Because when you fail a morale test, you become shaken. But then you take another morale test when you're shaken, which can then permanently remove you.
Yes, yes.
Apparently, though, unless you're obscured, because if you're shaken while obscured, then you can remove the shaken counter.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're like hiding in the bushes.
Right. Yeah, you can get your crap together.
Yeah.
Much.
So overall, there are a few cleanups in there that I approve of. Some of the wording has been improved that isn't too contradictory. However, there are a couple of major issues I still have, the main one being morale, and just the entire morale mechanic I just think could have done with completely revamping, but that's just me, maybe. And then I would like to see the doubles mechanic moved into more areas of the game, but they're not going down that route at the moment. Who knows? Maybe they will. Let's see. Wasgob. Looks hot there, Andy. Which circle of hell are you streaming from? Yes, this is actually one of the circles of hell. Although, someone asked what's behind this earlier, and it's just a very boring wall.
Yeah, Paul thought it was wombats, but there's no wombats there. Yeah. I don't know why he thought it would be wombats, but...
Yeah, that's a bit of an odd choice. Let's have a look in the old comments here. Apparently people are building and painting away as the show is going on, which is what we like to hear, getting their hobbying in. Finally, on Relics, the magic spells, a few of those have changed, but I didn't use all of the spells enough to accurately tell you exactly what's changed on some of them. I'm going to have a look at Distraction, though, because that was always a big one. Target unit must make a morale check with an additional -2 modifier. If it's failed, then they're considered to have activated, and it's within 14 inches. So it's totally different from how it was before, but that is one of the. I think that was already changed a bit from how Distraction used to be. I think they'd already started making changes to that before the actual new edition. I don't know whether they fully came into effect or not, but that is one thing that's definitely changed that people didn't like. So if you don't want to be distracted, you're going to want to stay near your commander, pretty much. It's going to force you to make a morale test. But again, anything that forces a morale check is just adding to the annoyance as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, that's true. I don't really remember the space right now. I wish I had brought my Relics book in here with me, but I didn't.
Yeah, guided arm and guided shots were the ones that everyone used as well.
That's also pretty good.
They look pretty much the same. Heal looks very, very similar. And I can't see anything that's too drastically different. If anyone who is one of our fellow Relics experts can see anything hugely different in any of the spells and would like to point it out in the comments, then feel free. Okay, so let's close that down for a sec. Now I'm going to tell people what I've been working on actually. And when I say working on, I mean I just moved it over to the painting table so I can start working on it. And that is the Relics terrain, which at the moment, not Relics, the Dead Zone terrain has been sprayed, but nothing else yet. And what I'm thinking of doing with it is, where's it gone? The amazing these technical paints.
Typhus corrosion and riser rust.
Corrosion and rust. So it's going to be corroded and it's going to be rusty, which I think is going to look pretty damn good. Because I've had all this Dead Zone stuff for years now, and I never got around to actually painting it. But with version 2, and people are actually wanting to play it now, so I think now is the time to get it painted up.
Indeed.
So that's the next thing.
Also, a cheaper alternative to riser rust is game effects rust. For the smaller wallet. There we go. That's what I use. Because I'm cheap.
How do you actually use that?
Sometimes I apply it right out of the bottle when I want like really heavy. Okay, no, I will start. I will base coat the area I want to look rusty in brown, normally a scorched brown, which I think scorched brown is pretty much the standard name for it, or sharp brown in game color. It's the base coat. Then I just put the rust effect over it, either right out of the bottle or I put a bit of water in if I want a bit lighter rust color. And after that, I simply dry brush it with bolt gunmetal or gunmetal in game color terms. And that is a really quick and easy rust effect if you are not wanting to be super fancy or painting for display or anything. It gets the work done really quickly.
Yeah, hopefully I can make it look pretty damn sweet. Better than my actual Dead Zone miniatures, which I'm not happy with at all, because I used quick shade on my enforcers and I don't really like how they look, even though they are orange. But I've got my Plague over at the airbrush station at the moment, which I'm going to prime in white and then spray the back of them in a color, which I haven't chosen yet. And then I'm going to put some kind of glaze or wash over the whole thing. Because if you spray just from one side, it kind of fades as it gets around the front. So I think it's going to look really cool. It's the same kind of thing that I did on my Kings of War Goblin Fleabag Riders.
Right. I remember.
Pretty tasty. So I might go for a kind of white on the front, maybe pink on the back kind of look for the Plague.
That could work.
Or purple, something like that. And then a red or a blue or maybe even a green wash or glaze over it, which I think could look really interesting.
Yes.
But have you tried the Dead Zone version 2 yet?
I have never played any Dead Zone ever. There were people in my circle of friends who started playing, but that was right when I was like super stressed out looking for flats and then moving, and then they kind of stopped playing anyway, and since then I haven't heard anything about Dead Zone anymore. I wanted to buy a starter for the orcs, but I didn't, which may be good because I haven't played it ever.
I should be playing my first game of Dead Zone 2nd Edition at some point over the next 10 days or 2 weeks or so. So I'll be able to report back on my findings at some point on this show, no doubt. We have had a paint-related question from the audience, actually. Nick Trojano, or Trojano, however that's supposed to be pronounced, looking for good alternatives to GW paints, preferably cheaper with a better design than the paint pot. Yes, because these pots, they're pretty terrible, really, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I prefer dropper bottles. I personally use game color paints. Some people don't like them. I personally am very satisfied with pretty much all of them, except sometimes when I buy the white, it can, if I get a bad batch or something, it can be like chalky and it's weird. So I also have like a different white over here, but in general, game color really neat. Vallejo paints are highly praised by a lot of people. The Reaper paints. If you want to get closer to GW paints, it's pretty much what I use the game color paints for, because they're kind of close to the older ranges of GW paint which I'm used to. I'm not as much used to the newer paints. For some colors, though, I still use GW paints for like Techless Blue.
Yeah, I pretty much only buy
like
GW
that.
paints now for convenience. If I'm passing through near a Games Workshop store and I need paint, then I'll buy one. But this Troll Slayer Orange is one of the last straws, because even though, as you can see, it's got a perfect seal there, I cleaned it out regularly to make sure it always closed properly. It's still dried up in weeks. Whereas
maybe you should try clapping the seal.
Game Color, this orange,
It's
still,
like orange juice.
yes.
If you try painting with it, it's horrible. Yeah, that's a thing, actually. I have to agree. I don't know why. The orange from Game Color is horrible. I could never use it. But the yellow is okay for some reason.
The coverage isn't that great, but I would rather use 5 coats of this rather than one really lumpy, sloppy coat of Games Workshop orange paint.
Yeah,
And most of the Game Color paints have been fine. It's just you have to do more coats sometimes. And other paints that I've tried, because I was just randomly got them for free. I think Mantic sometimes give away paints. Maybe that's where this one's from. This is Army Painter Bone Color, which I found much easier to use than the GW Bone Color, just again because it doesn't dry up. And also with it being dropper bottle, I'm sure one of the things that helps there is that you just pour out a little bit of paint and then close it immediately, rather than having to go back to the paint pot. Or if you're like Duncan on the Games Workshop tutorials, just unload a little bit of paint onto a perfectly clean white piece of paper and then close up the pot and then start putting Lamy and medium onto it.
Yeah. It's really annoying when you just try to get paint out of a GW pot and put it on a palette. You just have to like use a different brush, like a bigger one, and put it on, then clean the get out brush, and it's just too much work. I like dropper bottles.
Yeah, they should make a change in dropper bottles. If they went to dropper bottles, think how much money they could make selling pallets to people.
Yeah, that's true.
The Games Workshop
original
branded pallets, they could sell that for at least £20.
Yeah, at least that's true. But I'm not sure if they want that. I think they just want their paints to just dry out quicker, so you have to replace them. That's a thing.
I think that's true. Although some paints will never need replacing in my collection. For example, Tentacle Pink.
Yes.
Because I've never used enough of it over the years for it to be anywhere near finished, and there's no chance of it drying up because it's one of those classic 25-year-old paints that just never dry up because the pots and the formula were just so amazing. Let's see if it's got a date on it somewhere. I don't think it does. But this was in my first ever paint set, along with the Shining Gold, which I've still got, I think. And my Putrid Green is pretty ancient as well. That's still going strong.
Yeah, I also have some of those around.
The seal on most of these paints wasn't very good for years and years because it was all clogged up with paint. They still didn't dry out, which is a good sign.
That's true.
The GW ones currently, the only way they won't dry out is if you only use them on a full moon and only when all the planets are aligned, I believe. That's the only time it's safe to actually open the pot, and it doesn't immediately dry out under those circumstances.
I also have the theory that, like there's gnomes out there that steal always like one sock out of the washing machine, there's also gnomes out there that drink Agrex Earthshades. Like, I can just like pull out like a handful of empty Agrex Earthshade pots without even looking for more. There's so many in here. That's why I actually switched to Army Painter Strong Tone.
Well, look what I've got right here, the giant Agrex Earthshade, which I haven't knocked over yet.
Just wait until the gnomes find it.
Yeah, the gnome that takes possession of my hand and knocks over the wash pots as well.
Yeah, the last Agrex Earthshade pot that I bought, which is also a reason why I switched to something in a dropper bottle that I can actually like dilute down and get more out of, is because it was in a pot and I poured the whole thing into my keyboard and destroyed my keyboard.
I'm going to assume you did that by accident.
Yeah, that was not planned.
Surely
Certainly.
no one would want to pour Egrex Earthshade into their keyboard, unless you just wanted a really nice looking keyboard. And rumour has it that anything you apply Egrex Earthshade to automatically looks better.
Yeah.
One or two people out there are making like a face wash from Egrex Earthshade now.
The
Trying
thing
to bring
is,
in red detail a bit more.
they're advertising like Egrex Earthshade as like a gloss finish wash now, like a gloss wash.
Yes.
And I don't see the point in that, because I varnish everything with like a satin varnish after I finish.
Maybe there are a lot of people out there that don't varnish. Heathens.
I mean, if I want a spot to be glossy like gemstones or something, then after the satin varnish, I go over like a brush, and then I will gloss the varnish the parts that have to be glossy. But
if I want something to be glossy, I would rather do it with precision rather than putting a wash that's going to be glossy and leak onto other parts of the miniature.
yeah.
Now, I'm going to give people a sneak preview of something right now, because people may have seen the Golden Weasel Awards on the Andy and Rem show recently, and I'm going to show you the bottom of the trophy, which is white, and it's got some text on it. I don't know if you can actually see it, though.
I can't see it.
Let's see. Oh, there we go. You can see it says 2016 Golden Weasel, and I've put Andy on it there. And then when Mr. Remington comes around, he's going to sign it as well. I'm not going to show you the actual trophy, though, because that would be spoiling it for the recipient of the Golden Weasel trophy. That's something else I've been working on this week. And you've had a lot of commissions, haven't you?
Yeah, I have been painting the first batch of like a big Age of Sigma Nurgle army, which was quite fun. Sadly, I threw all the pictures out of my XSplit, I think, or else I could have shown them. Yeah, they're not in here anymore, sadly. But
yeah,
I painted
you showed
a lot
it
of
off on
Nurgle
your
stuff.
recent live show, didn't you? All that Nurgle stuff.
Yes, on not the last live show, but the one before that, I think. And beginning next month, I will paint the second batch, which will be fun. There will be a lot of Nurgle stuff painted, which is kind of my thing anyway.
Yeah,
My main collection is Nurgle, everything.
I'll put a link to your channel in the video description again, so all the people that come here looking for red hot sizzling wall-to-wall wargaming content have somewhere else to find it.
Yes,
Because
high
I can't possibly
quality.
put out a video every day.
No expenses spared in the production at all. And yeah, it's
Not at all,
it's
as you can tell by the
different.
XSplit logo on the screen there.
Yeah.
Which is always, it's like a seal of quality in the corner of the screen there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's like if you Google any image at all, and you find the ones with the big giant watermarks across the middle of the picture, and you just think, oh, I'll just use that anyway. It's like
Yeah,
that.
it just
No
screams
expense spared
quality.
whatsoever.
Indeed. Yeah, my channel is really ghetto, but everything is produced with a lot of love. Maybe not a lot of sweat, but a lot of love.
A lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
Only for the audience, maybe. If they sit through a whole live stream.
Well, we're getting close to wrapping this one up, since we've been going like an hour and 20 minutes-ish. So if anyone in the audience has any last-minute questions they want answering, you should get them in now.
Mickey is looking forward to the next Best Elves, which should come at some point. Right now, it's super hot in Germany. I have been, like, my body has been cooking all day. So recording something and being funny and making stuff up is really hard when your brain is, like, melting. Not that I need much brain activity to record these, to be honest. But still, it's work. It's hot.
Yeah, I think it's been overly hot here as well, but it's also been raining at the same time, so I couldn't even open the attic window, which is like the double, because then you do actually start to melt and start to cook. And I feel like if I just took a knife now and cut into my arm, it would actually be like grey, like a well-done steak inside.
Oh, good. I actually can have my fan running right now, which I'm really thankful for, and it's not being picked up by my mic. That's what's saving me. That's why I'm still here and haven't just dropped dead like half an hour ago.
I'm going to do an experiment now. I'm going to switch on my fan, and we'll find out if the microphone picks it up. Can you hear my fan?
It's faintly in the... I don't hear it anymore.
Okay, good. I'll leave that on for a
Faintly.
minute then, so I don't melt to death.
Yeah, it's very faintly when you don't talk in the background, like super faintly, but it should be okay, I think.
And another thing as well, slightly political related, but it is relevant to wargamers. Of course, the value of the pound has, shall we say, changed over the last 24 hours or so. So if people in other countries want to order things from the UK, now is a pretty damn good time, which includes, of course, Bad Squiddo Games that we were looking at earlier. It also includes Asylum Wargaming, the proud sponsors of every show that takes place on this channel, where you can get an additional 5% discount by inputting the code Andy2D6. Cha-ching. And that would include Forge World as well, that particularly American people usually don't like ordering Forge World because they can't order it from their part of the world, so they have to pay ridiculous amounts for it. So slightly cheaper at the moment, if anyone wants to get in on that sweet action. And let's see if we've had any questions. It doesn't look like it. So if anyone wants to leave any questions for next week, you can do so in the permanent comments, and there'll be another plethora of wargaming issues to dive into, I'm sure. And we should thank Druddy for co-hosting and joining for this episode.
Yes, my pleasure. Also my pleasure. By like my fan page or whatever, I don't know.
Yes, there is a Crabbington Steel Facebook page if anyone's interested in that. A fan page.
Yeah, I suspect Mickey did it.
Yes, I think that's definitely true. So, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to check out the Facebook group affiliated with this show. If you want to look into the video description for that, where you can see announcements for all upcoming shows, and you can post any wargaming news and so on that you would like to see discussed on this show. And with that, I think it's time to say goodbye, folks.
Good night, good evening. See you then.
Good night out there, whatever you are.